Welcome to the Wise Doula podcast, a place for informative, uplifting, and educational conversations. Here, we will discuss all things connected with parenting, from conception to birth, postpartum, and beyond. You are amongst friends here, so go ahead and grab a cup of your favorite drink. Remember, not caffeinated if you are expecting, and join me inside. I can't wait to speak with you. Hello, my dear listeners, and welcome to the podcast. Today, I want to invite you on a special journey. It's a journey down memory lane. We're going to travel back in time for 6 years, and I'm going to invite you to be part of my story. So picture this. The year is 2018. The location, Florida, US. The setting is a bedroom at my house. I am sitting on my bed, holding my cell phone, and I have just made the phone call I did not want to make. By this time, I am defeated, depleted. I am done. I am done not sleeping. I am done overthinking, worrying. I am done having anxiety, heightened anxiety, take over my entire life. And the phone call I've just made, it's a phone call to make an appointment with a therapist for the first time in my life. And I didn't want to make that phone call because I thought I could deal with things on my own. But it's gotten to a point that I can't. And I am a shadow of myself. And therefore, I make that phone call. As I make that phone call, a sigh of relief comes over me. I feel like my shoulders drop probably 2 meters. And it feels like I've taken the first step towards feeling better, towards healing. A few days later, I show up at the therapist's office. I remember it like it was yesterday. There is this long hallway, wall-to-wall carpet. And this carpet has like a geometric design. And then at the end of that hallway, I see the suite with the number. That's the therapist's office. The door opens, and this lady with a floral dress, here in the US, we call them muumuus. I don't know why, but they're called muumuus. A floral dress opens the door. She's an older lady, seems very nice. So she invites me in. Her office looks like a living room. I appreciate that. Her street shoes are over there under the desk. She's wearing slippers. So she looks very comfortable. So that also gives me confidence as well. And I sat in her sofa. I sat on the sofa. I sit there and I hold my purse. If you can imagine my purse, I'm hugging it like this, really tight, close to my chest. Because I am so afraid. In a way, I'm in disbelief that I'm sitting there and I don't know what's going to happen. I am so worried. So I push my purse down, put it on my lap, still holding it for dear life. And I proceed to tell her what's going on, what I need help with. Okay. As I finish my story, she says, you know what? Every teacher, every administrator that sits on that sofa tells me the same story. You're telling me you're not alone. A lot of people are experiencing this. And yes, in fact, what I have told her is the pressures that I'm feeling at work and how I feel like I can't keep up, etc. Okay? So she validates my experience, which feels amazing. And then we talk a little more, and she says, well, come over here to the table, and I'm going to give you a questionnaire. I know now that it was a depression scale. And so she gives me this questionnaire, and I'm answering these questions. I don't know about you, but are we, when you're answering a questionnaire, especially if it is at the therapist's office, are we being 100% honest? We should be, but are we being honest? Different story. So I'm scoring myself, and it's like all these questions, and I'm in my mind, I'm going, yeah, I'm a 4 or a 5, 4 or 5, but I'm putting a 2. I'm a 4, but I'm putting a 3, so I'm like scoring myself lower that I needed to be, because I didn't want to admit it, kind of. So I give her the questionnaire, she scores it, tallies it, and then she says, well, it says you're mildly depressed, but I think you underrated yourself quite a bit. And I'm like, this lady saw right through me, my goodness. So we get talking, and then she says, oh, I think you would be a prime candidate for SSRIs, which is an anxiety medication. And she says, well, since I'm not a medical doctor, I cannot prescribe it, but you can go to your doctor and ask for it. And I look at her and I go, you know what? I understand. I mean, there is a place for medication, absolutely, but I prefer to do this naturally. I truly thought it was going to be about behavior modification, giving me self care tips, giving me ideas about how to cope with work things better. I thought that's what the visit was about. And I was really surprised that it was just take this pill and go back to work. So I said I would like to do it natural. And this lady could have reacted many different ways, this therapist, but she chose to gaslight me, okay? She chose to gaslight me, believe it or not. And she goes, well, if you had a broken leg, you would not tell the doctor that you don't want a cast. You want to do it naturally. Well, this is the same thing. You need medication and you're saying you don't want it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I'm getting ready to leave. And she says, you know what? You still have however many more sessions if you want to come back. And I'm thinking, what am I going to go back for? So she can pound me in the head about how much I need this medication and not give me any other tools. So I left her office feeling really deflated, really like without options. And I thought, I'm just going to go back to my doctor and uh, just talk to my doctor. So I go to my family doctor. And by this time, I've told my family doctor that I can't sleep, okay? And he's insisting that he will not put me on sleep medication because I'm too young and sleep medication is addictive. Okay, that's fine. So I walk into his office for a checkup, whatever, and I don't say anything about the visit to the therapist. I kind of wait and see how the conversation unfolds. And then the doctor, because he knows I've not been sleeping, he tells me the exact same words. I think you would be a prime candidate for SSRIs. And a very nice kind of grandpa style doctor, older. But he gets to the point that he physically, I do not remember very well nowadays, but he physically makes the motion of opening my mouth. I do not remember if he physically opened my mouth or he did it in the air. But basically, it's this motion. If you were my daughter, I would pop your mouth open like this and I would put the pill inside because you are suffering because you want to. That's what modern medicine is for, so you don't have to suffer. And I have nothing against medication, you guys. I think there is value for medication and there are instances where it helps. In my case, I did not feel that that was going to be helpful. And, it made me think, well, if I need to be medicated to do my job, something is wrong with this equation. That was my thinking. And I think a very valid one. But so he tells me that, he gives me the prescription. I go into the car. For a moment, he's really convinced me, And then I talk to my spouse, and he says, "No, don't feel the medication. Let's look at other avenues." And in this whole experience, what I see is a lack of touch, a lack of genuine connection, a quick fix. Here is a pill and go home. Of course, I did not expect the therapist to give me a hug or anything like that. It wouldn't have been appropriate. But more of a connection, more of an understanding of why I was there. I mean, the day that phone call was so hard to make, you guys. And after I made it, I felt better. And then I went into her office with hope that things would get better. But they didn't. So I basically went home after visiting her and visiting the doctor with no real solutions, because to me, drugs were not the solution, okay? Pharmaceuticals at that point were not the solution. So I figure I have to do this on my own, you know. Yes, I could have looked for another therapist, but at the time, I didn't know that was an option. So I come home, talk to my husband, and I slowly start figuring things on my own. What can I do to start feeling better? Okay, let's start leaving work earlier. Let's find a support system in some coworkers that are truly supportive and that are there for me when I'm having a really hard day. Let's find solutions for sleep time. My faith, that was another thing that I heavily leaned on. Star Trek, believe it or not, huge Star Trek fan. And watching an episode every night gave me a lot of hope for humanity, for the future. It just put me in a very positive, uplifted mindset. Okay. Finding resources such as brown noise, black noise videos, Star Trek engine room videos, that type of thing. So when I couldn't fall asleep, I could fall asleep with that background noise. Or when I woke up in the middle of the night, I could go back to sleep. I started leaving work earlier, you know? Yep, that was a big one. I started doing activities outside that make me feel better, get back into dancing a little bit. So I start gathering up my resources by myself. But with that huge chunk of my heart hurting, that when I went to ask for help, I didn't get true help, at least not what in my book was true help. And like I said, I ended up finding through faith, through setting better boundaries, leaving work earlier, through talking to compassionate coworkers that were good listeners and supported me, through leaning on my family, on my husband, through leaning on those resources that helped me, I start feeling better. It's not overnight, it's little by little, little by little. And yes, there are times where I don't think I'll see the light at the end, but I do see the light at the end. I do. It takes time, but I do. And the whole point of this story, other than to share something that was very intense for me, and I think you might connect with it because you might have been in a similar situation. What it makes me think, whether you're a teacher or you work in a different environment, but especially for my teachers in the audience, it makes me think how many of us have gone through this in silence because, again, shame. There is shame around mental health. And that year, I might have been depressed as well, but definitely I had very heightened anxiety, and it was interfering with my sleep, and it was interfering with everything. And I didn't know how to calm down, how to turn off that signal in my body, you know. I learned over time, but back then I didn't know. And it makes me think how many of you are still, like I said, in the teaching profession, other professions, and you're feeling the same way and you're keeping it quiet and you're struggling through it and you're not finding the resources that can help you. For some people, going to a therapist is a decision that let's do it. This is it. For some people, it's a tough decision. It might be a money issue, it might be a fear issue. A lot of things could come into play, right? So, if you're a teacher and you are finding yourself in this situation, what is available to you? What I see now with the distance of time, 6 years later, is that, yeah, I got better. I found my own things, but I wasn't really clear on how important self care was to my well being. I wasn't really clear on how important drawing lines on the sand and setting boundaries with my time was in order to feel better. I wasn't really clear on tools available at my disposal. And I think a lot of us, unfortunately, are not. I have a bone to pick too, because I think our school districts, I'm talking about this country, the US, which is the environment I know, and in a lesser way, I know the environment in Spain as well. But I know the US very, very well because I've taught here for a very long time. It's an environment where there are high demands placed on us, but then the supports are not always there when we need them. And yes, we have employee assistance programs and things like this. So there are some things available. But in the area of mental health, a lot more support is needed for teachers because we feel like we're on a hamster wheel all year long. Because other coworkers that we're interacting with are possibly feeling the same way, but are putting on this facade of perfection, of I am great, I am keeping up with everything great, grades, this, that, the other thing, when the reality is that most of us are breaking into tiny pieces inside. And for fear of shame, for fear of rejection, for fear of judgment, we are not sharing those things. We're tucking them all inside and we keep going. And that might work for some people. It doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't really work, does it? You're just covering, you have an injury and you're just covering it and covering it and covering it. The injury is still there. So again, I'm never going to say, go and tell all your coworkers that you're struggling, this and that. No, you have to choose your allies well when you're at work and know who to trust. And sometimes that's a lesson you have to learn with time. But you lean on the people that can help you and can support you. And then let me tell you, there is plenty of self care available for you out there. And I want you to know what's at your disposal, okay? I wanted you to know what is available. Because after leaving the classroom full time in 2018, I have had 6 years to observe and learn and continue growing. And I can tell you, I particularly have a teacher friend who has a very good amount of self care that she engages in that makes a difference to her general well being. That I look at her like she's a younger version of myself because she is indeed younger. And the things she's doing on a regular basis are helping her. So let's go over some of those things, right? Let's go over some of those things. So, number one, you can look for a therapist. Number two, you can look for a support group. Support groups for anxiety, support groups for teachers in your area, look for a support group. Number 3, if you're a person of faith, definitely you can lean on your faith and you can lean on groups that are happening at your particular church or temple. Number 4, what are you doing for your body? What are you doing to release the stress of the week? Are you getting a massage? Are you going into a salt cave? Are you taking a long bath? Yeah, we're not going to sit here and say that all self care is just bubbles and things like that. But there is value in caring for your body. There is value in loving your body the way you've been loving and supporting everybody else around you throughout the week. Okay, because as a teacher throughout the week, you've been pouring every cell of your body into your students and into what's going on in the classroom. Now it's time to pour that love back into you. So are you doing massage? Are you doing bath, deep bath? Are you doing perhaps craniosacral therapy? What is helping you? Salt cave? Are you doing yoga? Etc. Then let's think about your emotions and your creativity. What makes you happy? Perhaps you're a person that likes painting. You like working with fiber. You like knitting and crocheting. Perhaps you're a person that enjoys coloring books. Let's think about nature. You're a person that enjoys walking outdoors, exercising, going for a bike ride. What are the things that are replenishing your bucket, that are filling you up? Because when you have a good balance of those, your week is going to flow a lot better. Anxiety is going to be there. Heightened anxiety is going to be there. Worrying, overthinking, at least if you're like me. But the things that you're doing to care for yourself, they're going to balance. They're going to help you balance that demanding time with a more gentle time. And the reality is, yes, in the ideal world, all school districts in this country would be investing a large amount of money on mental health programs for teachers, on emotional and mental health programs for teachers. Because without a well-balanced teacher, you cannot have a well-balanced student. And, regardless of whether it's a well-paid profession or not well-paid or whatever, we deserve to be taken care of. And we deserve to be taken care of, and not just with medical insurance, okay? We deserve to be given attention and care. And this becomes especially important, again, when you're a teacher that is planning to become a mother, you are trying to put a baby and a husband and a partner into the equation, and now you're thinking, this is impossible because I don't have time for anything. I'm always running on this hamster wheel. I'm exhausted. How on earth am I going to do this? So I'm here to tell you that you are the one that knows your body and your mind best. In the ideal world, our districts would be providing all of those things for us. Unfortunately, they provide some, but not enough. But what are you doing? And I know because I've been there. It's tiring, it's exhausting, and you don't even have the mental space to think about what things to do. Okay, maybe organize a small group with some of your coworkers and plan a fun calendar that you're going to do together. Plan a fun calendar that involves some time in the park, some time in nature, some time engaging in creativity, some time engaging in faith, some time engaging in things that give you rest. So, so important. Don't wait for anybody to come and do that for you, because unfortunately, it's not going to happen. But find your own resources, find your own tribe, find what speaks to you, and be strict with yourself. Don't be all like, oh, well, I guess I'll just stay at work until 8 p.m. every day and then I don't have time for my self-care. No, 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 no. Be strict with yourself. What are non-negotiables? What are things that you're going to go, absolutely not. I will not stay past this time. I will get my work done until this time, and then I will go home knowing that I did my best for those hours. And that is a tough lesson to learn. And for people that are listening that are not teachers, here in the US, your contract normally ends at the districts I've worked at 3:30. But there is an implied obligation to stay after work or to arrive super early before work. So our contractual hours are never our contractual hours because we always stay extra. And I'm talking in the period of a week, you're probably putting 15 extra hours, maybe 20. So, and it's very hard not to because we always have so much to do. But be strict with yourself and give yourself that love. All of that love and attention that you're pouring into others, pour it into yourself too, okay? And like I said, this could apply to teaching profession, it could apply to nursing, people that work in mental health, if you work for a company. At the end of the day, you have the responsibility of caring for yourself and of finding the tools that help you. And for me nowadays, I've already told you, if you've been listening to my podcast, you've already heard my experience, right? In episodes 5 and 6, when I had my guest, ASMR Jeremiah, I talked about how over time I found a bunch of tools that help me, and one of them is ASMR for me, right? And doing crafts and being outdoors and dancing. Those are the things that replenish me. You need to know the things that replenish you. Okay? And I want you to remember that you are a whole human being. Being a teacher is just one of your identities. Being a mom is just one of your identities. It's not your only identity. You are a whole human being. And our emotions, our physical body, our emotional body, our brain, everything is connected. Everything is interacting. And when we start not caring for one area of our body, of our human being, we become imbalanced. We become a little bit brittle. We break down a little bit. And I would like to encourage you to do that for yourself and to also do that for other people that work with you. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them if they are taking care of themselves emotionally as well as physically, mentally as well as physically. And be the agent of change. Start a little group, a little tribe. Start organizing little events, even if it's once a month. We always need something to look forward to. And we need to maintain this beautiful body and mind that we were given, right? We need to maintain it and maintain it well. And no job in the world deserves you to neglect yourself. And I know it's easier said than done. But for your homework today, please think about yourself and the people in your life and think about ways that you can incorporate that beautiful emotional, mental, physical self-care into every week so you can continue thriving and growing and being the awesome human being you are. Hey, you have listened to the Wise Doula podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything we discussed today was meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not substitute the advice of your medical provider. Would you do us a favor? Follow me on Instagram at LovingBellyDoula. Also, let me know what other topics you would like to see me discuss in this podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.